everybody, and welcome back to Creeps and Crimes
Podcast.
I'm Taylar.
And I'm Morgan, and this is episode
54.
Our
Woo,
first official episode of season 2. So welcome, everybody. If you skipped out on our bonus episode, please revert back because that was awesome.
That was awesome, and we told you everything for you to expect in season 2. All the changes that have been being made, but typically you can really get it within an episode because This is our first regular episode on YouTube. So
hi.
This is gonna be interesting.
I'm regretting every second of it. But
Absolutely. So
first, let's tell them about our very stressful Thursday night.
Everything. Okay, so if you guys don't know already, Mercury is in retrograde. So buckle up, white knuckle the shit out of it because it's scary. Like it's not okay.
It's been messing with us so hard. And
much.
the podcast, it does not
like the podcast.
Creeps and Crimes. Let me tell you that much.
It doesn't. So, was it Thursday night or Wednesday night?
I think it was Wednesday night.
So Wednesday night, I'm sitting, literally, guys, by the way, I've been sick. And in our bonus episode 1 of season 2, I was like sniffly and whatever. Well, it got progressively worse after that. And I went to the doctor. I got tested for COVID like 3 times. They all came back negative. I was convinced that I had COVID. And everybody was like, you're just being you, Taylar. Like, chill it out. And so I went to the doctor. They tested me. It was negative. They're like, you just have a cold. And I'm like, really? Because, really feels like the flu, at least. And like,
it's definitely not a cold, okay?
Yeah, they're like,
come to the doctor for a cold, okay?
Exactly. They're like, yeah, you're fine. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Okay, but whatever, bye. So anyways, I come home from my doctor's appointment and I'm like, okay, well, that means I'm good to go. Like, because we like kind of put everything on hold. We
acted like season 2 wasn't going to happen.
Even though all the episodes were already recorded, we literally acted like season 2 was a no-go.
We're like, no, can't do it.
I didn't edit anything. I didn't even have our logo ready. Like, it was really dramatic of us. But what were you expecting? So I'm sitting down. I'm on my computer all day Wednesday. I am editing episodes like crazy. I'm fixing our intro song. I'm fixing our logo, everything. YouTube, everything. And my computer crashes.
Like, bites the dust.
Like,
crash.
Literally, it was like, your disk is full and you can't empty your trash because your disk is so full. So in a panic, I delete everything from college from my computer. So now my computer is my wedding photos, my engagement photos, my graduation photos, and Creeps and Crimes. And that is it. And so I swipe the computer of everything that I don't need, and it won't delete anything. And it goes black. And I'm like, literally no. So I'm on the phone with Apple.
I don't know anything is happening yet.
No,
at this point.
I keep it really low key. I hid it from Morgan because I was like stressing out enough for the both of us, so I didn't need her stress. So I'm on the phone with Apple. I'm on the phone with this dude named Christian. He was amazing. We had to literally go through the like back way into your computer through like this terminal page. It looked like an FBI computer. It was crazy looking. There's coding all over my screen. He's like telling me to type this thing. It wasn't working. We could not get into my computer. And he's like, okay, I need to talk to my advisor really fast about this one article that I'm looking at to just verify that this will be the thing that fixes it. But let me put you on hold. I'm like, okay. So, I'm like sitting here.
This is when I get a text.
So I text Morgan because I'm like,
it's going to be fixed.
It's going to be fixed. Everything's going to be fine. And as I am texting Morgan, he hops on the phone and he's like, I've got it. And then he goes, beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, hello?
Christian, you dirty dog.
Christian, are you there? Christian doesn't answer. So I wait for him to call me back because I'm like, he can call me back, right? Like he can call me back. So I'm Googling on my phone. I'm like, can Apple call you back if you get disconnected? And it was like, yeah, about that time it pops up. Apple support is calling you. So I answer it and it's like, for quality assurance, we'll be recording. And I'm like, okay, yep, agree. I click agree and it goes beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, hello?
You're his dad.
I'm like sobbing. I'm like, Christian, no, I'm on Morgan. I don't know what to do. And I didn't want to call anybody just in case he like tried to call me back and it was busy. So I Google, can Apple call you back a second time? It's like, no, that's prohibited. Great. Love that for us. So I call Apple back and it took me like 30 minutes to get on the phone. Meanwhile, me and Christian had been on the phone for a full hour. So it takes me like 35 minutes to get back on the phone. I get back on the phone with this guy named Jeff. Jeff. This
is your official shout out, my man.
This episode is dedicated to Jeff from Apple. Point blank period. Okay. So
what are you wearing?
Jeff from Apple. State Farm. So I'm like, okay. And I got on the phone with Jeff answers. Poor Jeff. Jeff's like, hi, my name's Jeff with Apple somewhere. I'm like, Jeff, listen, I was talking to this guy named Christian and we got disconnected and I'm on the FBI page. And he's like, you're on the FBI page? And I'm like, no, seriously, like something's wrong with my computer. And he's like, okay, well, let me try to screen share everything. I'm like, you can't. I'm in the back rooms of my computer. And he's like, hey, Taylar, calm down. And I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do, Jeff? Meanwhile, I'm having a cough attack, okay? So he gets on, he's like, okay, I'm going to screen share with your phone, use the camera like you're FaceTiming me and show me what your computer is showing you. I'm like, Jeff, you're fucking genius, literal genius.
Meanwhile, at this point, she's texting me like, Jeff's got it fixed. Jeff's going to fix it. I'm texting her not knowing that Jeff has access to
everything.
Share. My message is popping up. I'm like, hell yes, Jeff. I say a couple inappropriate to Jeff. I offer some things to Jeff. And yeah.
Yeah. So Jeff fixes everything. Me and Jeff are best friends. I was on the phone with Apple for 3 hours and 25 minutes.
And the podcast is saved.
And, but in the meantime of all of this, when me and Jeff finally got it back up and running, we got back into my computer, all of our episodes deleted. Every single one. Our Patreon episode,
that we hadn't posted
yet, our episode 53 that hadn't posted yet, and episode 1 of season 2, the bonus, also got deleted. And I was like, Jeff, I swear to God, if you don't find these, I'm going to jump out of the window, I swear. And he's like, I'm going to find them. So he like found them for me. It was amazing. And Jeff was our savior that day. And
so Jeff from Apple.
This one
is for you, my man.
You're the best. Point blank period.
So anyway, you guys, this was Mercury's doing.
Yeah. Mercury, I hate you. All right. Next
up, we have a happy birthday shout out to Josephine
and Vandevore and Kelly Joe.
We spent, besides our launch party, we went out the next day and we spent all weekend with our little Kelly, and she introduced us to something called the KJ Special.
Yes.
And this is a drink that has, I'm going to butcher this, Kelly. You just comment on this episode and you fix it for me.
Let us know.
It is like a strawberry vodka. It has champagne in it. It has
strawberry vodka,
soda water,
lime juice,
and grenadine. And it is amazing.
It was so good.
And then that night was also preceded by us going to get espresso martinis from Brother Wolf.
Brother Wolf espresso martinis can take my soul.
They took my soul, quite literally.
They literally took Morgan's soul.
Because I'm FaceTiming, or I FaceTimed you, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I'm not sure. I get home, right? We had like 5 espresso martinis each.
It was embarrassing
I'm
how many we had.
I'm not sure if anything's wrong with me, but my face is beet red. I'm welted in hives all over my chest. And she's like, dude. I'm like, yeah, what's up? Like, I think something's wrong. I think I drank something. So you called the place, or you did something. They're like, yeah, it's made with walnut mixer.
It's got walnuts in the coffee, basically. Like when the coffee beans are ground, they're also ground with walnuts to give it a nutty taste. So Morgan's in the bathtub whenever I get this information.
It's like one of those drunk nights where like you need to get a shower, but you don't feel like standing.
Yes.
So I'm laying in the bathtub.
And so I'm like,
and I just end the call. I'm like, all right, see ya.
Bye.
Let me know if I had walnuts and I'm allergic to.
So I discover that there were walnuts. And so I am like calling Morgan, rapid firing calling Morgan and texting her. She's not answering. So I get on Logan's microphone because he was playing video games with Aaron. I take his headset off. I'm like, Aaron, Aaron, can you hear me? And he's like, yes, Taylar, you don't have to scream. Like, you could
right
just talk
here.
normal. I'm like, Morgan had walnuts. You need to go shove an EpiPen and Benadryl down her throat right now. He's like, all right. He finishes the game.
And then he walks in, you guys. I'm laying on the bathroom floor, shower running over top of my head. Slides the curtain open. He goes, hey, Taylar said you drank walnuts. And then walks away. I'm like,
hello?
Okay.
So then Morgan calls me or texts me and she's like, LOL, Aaron just came in here and told me. And I'm like, okay, great, but we have a new thing that happened to us now. So I hope you get better. Take your Benadryl, but something big just fucking happened to us.
I'm not functioning for it.
And that's why we drink podcast. Liked Creeps and Crimes Instagram post.
You guys. I wish I would have been coherent enough to hype Taylar up that night because I was just like, no way, so cool.
OMG. Literally
Slouched,
dead.
sleeping. And then I get on, I'm like, holy shit, and that's why we drink, like our picture. I'm like, Taylar probably lost her mind last night.
Crying.
And I'm passed out in my
Literally.
bed, having an allergic reaction and like 5 martinis in.
And we're not okay. Like, we definitely did something to Morgan's body that was not good. Like, she probably lost like 7 years on her life. But then I lost 13 because of the excitement and fangirling shit that went through my body when my favorite podcast liked my podcast Instagram.
Yeah,
so
that was amazing.
I'm not okay.
And they also commented on one of Taylar's TikToks.
So basically, I'm famous and don't talk to me.
Yeah.
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 Pretty much it. Bye.
Okay, we have a new review we want to quickly share.
Yep.
I know we are dragging you guys out.
We have some short stories this episode.
So we figured you wanted to know about our lives.
They're like, absolutely not. Y'all have talked so effing much.
No,
you know I can't read.
Okay. So it is titled Best Creepy Crime Podcast, and it is from I_Luna_. It says, my sister shared this podcast with me when it was first dropped, and I have been listening to it since. I have listened to many creepy crime podcasts before and can say this is hands down the best out there. Taylar and Morgan are absolutely hilarious. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And never fail to make me laugh, even while they're covering a super creepy or serious segment. Their vibes create such a welcoming setting that you almost feel like you're sitting in the studio with them each week. I absolutely love the topics they cover, the creepy accounts, the respect they give the victims, the way they portray their stories, very informative and in a fun way, and drinks. Keep up the good work, ladies. Clapping hands, star emoji.
Thank you so much. I think her name is Isabel. Yeah, and
I think that's who it is.
Yeah,
too.
she's from Cleveland, and I went to school with her brother and her sister. Yeah. And I don't know if she's a younger or an older sibling of them, but she's always...
Yeah, we see you, girl.
She's the
always
best.
Interacting with us.
Yeah, and like
she's
I love our listeners that like interact with us. Like I really like get to know them. Like I love everything about them. Like it means so much. And she's been with us since literally day one.
Yeah,
since our like beginning lives, she was on those. Like that's how long ago. So that's super sweet. Morgan, what are you drinking and what are you drinking out of?
I'm drinking out of my coffee mug from Craft Creek Creations that we bought this time last year, and I am drinking a Moscow Mule.
And I am drinking 19 Crimes wine out of mine little cutie one. So it's super good, and I love these cups, and you've probably seen them all over our stories before, and mainly because I drink tea out of them like every night. So
yeah, they're super cute.
Sorry, Nikki and Odie and Logan are in the other room if you can hear someone screaming Odie.
Odie being bad boy.
He just got out of his first training class, so he's like listened out. He can't do anything else. Like he's over.
We have been talking for 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's time to go. And I told us that we were only doing 8-minute intros.
Yeah, and I was like, I really like our intros. Now I'm kind of regretting it, but also not really because today's super short, so we need the time.
Yeah, so we need the time. Okay, so hit them with it.
If you're driving, throw that shit on cruise control.
If you got a glass, pour that shit up.
And let's get
creepy. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
So we're back on YouTube. And we're back from our little intro song just to tell you guys that Mercury is for sure in retrograde.
We just confirmed that.
because I didn't video record the entire intro. So sorry to everybody on YouTube. I apologize.
And we're gonna shake it off, and we're gonna dive into
Good
our
thing
season
Morgan's going
1
first.
episode.
Season 2.
Season 2. Oh.
Okay, Morgan, what do you have for us today?
Okay, today I'm gonna give you guys a haunting that sounds like it came straight from a horror movie.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Like legit, no doubt about it. This is the story of a woman named Jane and her family. And my source for today's segment is a website called YourGhostStories.com, where Jane described in detail her very own haunting experience.
Jane.
Other sources are Brooklyn.com, HouseBeautiful.com, GhostTheory.com, and Ecto Portal Podcast from YouTube. So I don't want to sit here and just like read how she wrote it, because that might as well just be a creepy account.
Right.
But I really wanted to tell you guys a story because I thought it was super cool. So on that note, Jane H. and her family were thrilled to move into a new apartment. And I'm only going to say Jane H. because her name is listed in other sources, but the one where she told her own story, she used that alias.
Got it.
We're just going to stick with that. It was the very first apartment that had more than one floor and enough space for everyone. On April 1st, 1998, 14-year-old Jane and her family moved into what they thought would be a place that they could finally call home. But what they didn't know was that their life would quickly turn into something directly out of a horror film. Mm-hmm. Pulling up to 455A Sackett Street in Brooklyn, New York, Jane's family was full of excitement to unload the car and make their way into their brand new apartment. Walking in, they immediately noted that something wasn't right. Jane said the apartment was incredibly dark. They immediately had these eerie feelings. It was uninviting, cold, and damp. No. The family tried to decorate it, warm it up, make it a bit more homey, a bit more their own. But regardless of what they tried, nothing could mask the real feelings they got being inside that apartment. So I say apartment, but it's a house.
Yeah, it's like a townhouse.
Yeah, like a little townhome.
Sorry, I'm looking at her computer and it's
a
townhouse.
I have the Zillow pulled up.
Yeah.
The unit had 3 floors, including the basement. Regardless of where they were, they couldn't shake the feeling someone was always standing behind them or staring at them everywhere they went. The first couple of weeks inside 455A Sackett Street were unimaginable. The first issue that was noted was they couldn't get a phone installed. This is 1998. Home phones are popping.
It's 1998.
And regardless of what they tried, it just would never work. The family reached out to 4 different phone companies to get it fixed. They even rewired the phone line in the house, and they still got absolutely nothing. Not even static. Just wasn't working.
No. Already can tell you absolutely not.
Right. And then weird shit started, as well as a course of bad luck. Excuse me. The family experienced numerous break-ins during their first week, and continually getting worse when 14-year-old Jane was raped by an intruder in her own bedroom the second week she lived in the house.
Move!
Yeah.
Right now.
Jane's rapist was caught and arrested, and he turned out to be a member of the neighborhood with a previous record. Attempting to make do in their neighborhood with the horrors that they had just faced in the first couple of weeks, they reached out to a neighbor. She was an older woman who lived next door to 455 Sackett Street for the majority of her life. She informed the family that no tenant remained in that apartment for longer than a year at a time.
Oh.
And this went on for as long as she could remember. The neighbor also told Jane's family that terrible tragedies happened to all the tenants within only a few weeks of moving in and continuing through the day that they move out. Doesn't it sound like a movie?
Yeah, it literally sounds like The Conjuring.
Yeah.
Like,
the family took this claim seriously and decided they wanted to double up on security. They changed their locks, they added locks to the windows, etc. Things like that. Of course, they didn't have home or whatever,
like
security
cameras.
Yeah, this is 1998. But it just didn't help. Her brother's bedroom was a small room, almost closet-sized space. Remember, this is New York, so that wasn't uncommon. In the middle of the night, the ceiling collapsed directly above her brother's bed. He was awoken just prior to the collapse with the urge to use the restroom. Her brother was unarmed simply because he had to go to the bathroom. And the strangest part about the collapse was that the ceiling didn't fall in anywhere else, only above his bed. And the cause of the ceiling collapse was never determined. Just a couple weeks after, while Jane was taking a nap in her bedroom, she was awoken by the sound of a doorbell. She said it was one of those times that you just couldn't wake up and you were like dreaming of the doorbell ringing, but you weren't really sure.
Yeah, been there.
She finally came to and went to answer the door where her friend was standing outside. Within 5 minutes of standing outside with her friend, a neighbor came running out of her house screaming that Jane's house was on fire. Jane ran back in, saw smoke coming from her bedroom, walked up and saw her entire back wall of her bedroom engulfed in flames.
Just the back wall?
Just the back wall. She grabbed a blanket, she's 14, 15 at the time, to try to put it out when she said that her bedroom door closed behind her.
Literally no.
Jane said it went from daylight to dark in minutes and she passed out onto her bedroom floor. She awoke back up outside the apartment when her friend tells her that they had to bust open her door as if it was locked or jammed and then carry Jane out of the room and down the stairs outside.
I mean, thank God people saw her.
Right. Good thing her friend was there.
Literally.
Jane said if her friend didn't ring the doorbell that day, she would have continued sleeping. And if her friend didn't bust the door open, she would have been literal toast.
Yeah.
Her words were. Those were words.
I mean,
I didn't think that. Those were
okay,
words.
girly.
I kind of liked them a little bit.
Okay, girly, I like that, but dark humor.
Like the ceiling collapse, the fire department never determined the cause of fire. It was trauma after trauma for Jane's family, and the family couldn't break the lease because they just couldn't afford to. Then things got paranormal after this. One day, her and her brother were playing in their mom's bedroom when they heard other children crying and laughing downstairs.
No.
When they got up to investigate, their mother's bedroom door shut them in, and the knob wouldn't turn. They were locked in when there was no lock on their mother's bedroom door.
There was no lock on the door and they got locked in.
They got locked
Mercury
in.
had to have been in retrograde.
They were home alone at the time, freaking out, trying to get the door open. They were stuck in the bedroom for about an hour until they tried the door again and it opened with ease. They told their parents, who just shook it off. Shortly after, their mother was in the basement doing laundry. The lights turned off and the room got cold. Her mom felt a scaly hand grab her shoulder, which sent her in screams running up the stairs for her husband.
Oh my God.
And after that, Jane's dad did the laundry from then on out.
Okay, you know what? Actually, hey, Logan.
I felt a scaly hand. Logan, I felt something when I was doing laundry. I can't ever do it again.
He'd be like, you are a psycho? I don't care.
I pulled that car on air and he's like, it's literally in the living room. Like the laundry room is literally in the living room.
Mine's in the basement, so I have a little bit more, and it's an unfinished, like, scary ass basement.
Yeah, your basement is scary.
So, I think I can get away with that.
Yeah.
I'd have to have good proof, though.
There were weird smells, weird sounds, and they couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone didn't want them there. They constantly felt like something bad was going to happen, and they knew that they were not welcome at that house at all. So they kept the paranormal activity within the family, specifically from Jane's friends. Jane didn't want them to be afraid to come over or think she was weird because she was just finally settling in, so she just never said anything to anyone.
Right.
But unfortunately, Jane's friends found out for themselves.
Oh, no.
One friend was using the restroom when she came out screaming in terror. She was yelling and told Jane that she saw a young boy who looked burnt and was wearing burnt clothes staring back at her in the mirror. This friend never stepped foot in Jane's family apartment ever again.
That's so sad.
I know. In the middle of the night during a sleepover, a different friend woke up to a noise outside of Jane's bedroom door. She was shaking Jane to wake up, but when she stopped, frozen in her tracks as she watched a woman in a white gown walk through Jane's bedroom door and into her room.
Why is it always a fucking white gown?
I know, dude. She said the woman was just staring at her and then quickly vanished. After more conversing with the neighbor, asking the history of the house, the old woman finally told them that strange things have always gone on in the building. She said in the 30s or the 40s, a fire had killed a young boy within a month of the family moving in. And in the 60s, a couple was murdered by the mob due to some type of affair.
Oh, God.
Jane's parents looked into both scandals, and they both checked out. They resided in the house for exactly a year, and when the lease was up, they couldn't have packed their belongings any quicker.
Right, they had that shit ready to go.
Yeah. After moving out, they see their previous address on the news. The new tenants that moved in found the skeletal remains of a young boy in the wall of the basement. These same tenants left suddenly one night, not too long after, and they never returned.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Jane states, she closes out her post by saying this, "We are all fine now, happy to be out of there, and we have moved on. We still see our old neighbor once in a while, and she always says the best thing we ever did was move out of that godforsaken house. Needless to say, we agree. We've not been haunted since, and life is good. If there is one thing we learned, I'd say it was to trust our instincts. If you get horrible vibes from a place, don't put it off as folly.
Period.
It might just save you a whole lot of trouble."
Yes.
But while Jane's story might be over, my story isn't.
Ooh!
I didn't mention before, but Jane's mother was a nurse that worked at a doctor's office. One day, years after they moved out, Jane's mother had a patient that came in who dealt with anxiety and other nervous conditions.
Right.
While getting the patient's information, she noticed something that sent chills down her spine.
Not the address!
On her insurance card, she saw 455A Sackett Street. Now, she normally wouldn't notice something like this. It's not a nurse's job, but it was highlighted from the front desk because the address that she wrote down on file didn't match the one on the insurance card. The front desk highlighted it and then they sent the paperwork with the nurse.
To figure out if there's an updated address.
Not even for that, but just you check in at the front desk, they probably had it for their own being, and then the doctor will fill out stuff and then give it back to the front to put in the computer.
Right.
So Jane's mother asked her about it without, saying holy shit, I lived there. How weird is that? And the woman explained to her that her address is no longer 55A Sackett Street because she only lived there for a few months. She proceeds to say that her mother had died at the property along with other tragedies that messed the family up within the first week of moving in there. This is years later. Jane said her mother was shook and decided to tell the woman that they used to live at that exact address with their family. And the woman asked if she had ever noticed anything weird. Jane's mother asked if she had ever noticed anything weird, and the patient told her everything that had happened to her. And Jane was left speechless because everything the patient said was exactly what they had gone through. How creepy. So, you guys, this website where Jane told about her family's haunting allows for a forum of discussion.
I will be on that website
where people talk. Well, somebody commented on her forum that they also lived at the house.
Oh, great.
And they were experiencing weird things, and they decided to, look some stuff up on the internet when they came across her post, because this was posted 10 years ago.
Right.
So I'm just going to read this post.
I'm so excited. I can't even contain it.
Read this comment, sorry.
This made me feel a lot better from not recording the intro, by the way. Thank you.
Okay. It says, I lived in that house for 3 years in 2003. It was the creepiest place ever. I had the room that I think was your brother's because it was the size of a small closet. The ceiling still had a bad patch job from where the ceiling probably fell in before. There was also remnants of the fire from Jane's room. I had to remove the radiator from the tiny room, and there was a ton of soot behind it. I never felt safe in that place. Under the porch in the back, there was a small storage room. The entrance was outside under the porch. Me and my roommates went in after the door popped open one day.
No.
There was a kneeler altar-like thing, and no joke, a pair of girls' roller skates caked with blood, and a small boy's clothes.
There was an altar?
Yeah. It was so creepy. We called it the goat hole. The people that moved in after us, parentheses, they bought the place, completely gutted it and renovated. I could only imagine what they found in there. So you guys, the house was gutted and hopefully purged by
I mean, it should be burned down.
And like I have the pictures pulled up here, and it is like a beautiful townhome.
It's
like you
so
would
nice.
never know. Like if I saw that, I'd be like, oh yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I will definitely stay in this Airbnb.
Right, exactly.
And then we would pull up and like bad vibes.
Yeah,
Bad
plenty
vibes.
roller skates.
Yeah,
Alternate.
type of conjuring shit. Gotta go.
Currently, it's for sale for like a couple million, 2.4 to be exact, and it is a beautiful Brooklyn, New York apartment. But because of the media that it has on it, it's been on the market for quite some time.
Yeah, I bet. I for sure bet.
So personally, I think you'd be a fool to purchase that place.
Me too.
By all means, I guess, because I would pay in New York for square footage like that. I would live with a couple of ghosts.
Yeah, me too. But no, actually, because there's an altar. But pause real fast. Well, not pause, but to add on to that. So Logan, my husband, he's in, both of our boys are in the mortgage business. So my husband's a loan originator, and he, we're looking for houses and stuff, and we're like kind of house shopping, whatever. And so he's always on Zillow every night, like, I gotta see this Zillow before I go to bed. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like he checks it like Facebook.
It literally, like I check Instagram and
Yeah.
TikTok, he checks his Zillow. So he's like, oh, this new property popped up today. What do you think about it? I'm like, well, what year was it built? Yeah, I'm like, what year was it built? He's like, 1900. I'm like, how many days has it been on the market? Oh yeah, see, I don't like it when it's been on the market more than like 30 days. Like that means something's really wrong with it. I'm like, well, by the looks of that house, it's haunted.
I'm gonna go with that people aren't buying it for a reason.
Yeah, more like there's bad juju in that house.
Right.
So, anyways, he's like, I bet it's just like knocked off its foundation. I'm like, no, it's a bad vibe. Like if we went right now, I'd be able to tell you it was a bad vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't get to tell you this. I think I might have mentioned it to you, but I'm getting my house cleansed on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been a whole year since I've got it, cleansed by...
It's gonna feel so good recording episode 55.
It is going to feel great, and maybe I won't be a dumbass and not hit record.
Maybe you guys will get to see the intro.
Maybe you will. Who fucking knows?
But I do want to get your. That's the story for the most part. But I want to get your ideas on what you think was tormenting them, because everyone's saying like it's not just paranormal, but they're experiencing these tragedies of like bad luck. Like,
right.
She's a 14-year-old. They're getting burglarized.
Like literally, it's like physical tragedies are happening to them.
Right. So how do you connect that to like the paranormal?
Well. So I wonder, they never mentioned anything about it in the stories, so I'm curious if it was stuff that they just didn't really talk about. But I wonder if there was like 3 a.m. things or knockings or bad smells.
So,
or flies.
They did say, I did mention they had weird smells, they had weird unexplainable sounds, like they did experience that, so I don't know. That's
like really the only time that like, I'm not saying that negative spirits can't bring all of that to someone, like they could, but like most of the time it's demonic at that point, which goes back into the altar like situation that was underneath. I mean, literally that is exactly the plot of The Conjuring 3. Right.
And apparently, I mean, I feel like that's like a huge point that she would know in her story, but maybe they never came across it.
Exactly.
Because that was someone who lived there for 1998, 2003, 5 years later.
Exactly.
That was like, well, this is what we found there.
And the fact that it was like me and my roommates, I'm like, I know y'all were all over that shit. Like,
oh my god.
There's a difference between like a family being somewhere because you have to be like really low key and like not scare your kids. But like, for there to be like roommates, like, fuck it, we're going under the house. Like, right now.
I loved doing a story like this because it's not you're like, oh, this building's haunted with this ghost and this. Like, this is like someone's personal experience.
Yes.
But like we were able to, tell it in a way that isn't just like a
I loved it so much.
Account. Yeah,
like,
I thought it was cool.
I really loved it. And I love anything that's like she was like, what do you think I should do this week? And I was like, I want something so dark and scary.
And I'm like, I'm not good at that.
And she's like, it scares me. And I'm like, you're literally creep. I'm crying. You're creep. What are you?
Get it together. It's October.
What did I say to you during the photo shoot? Like, get it together, turd.
Something
like that.
Get it together, turd.
So, anyways, that's that on that. I love this story.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for bringing us that creepy thing to kick off spooky season.
You're welcome.
I loved it. East Tennessee people, listen up.
Do you have an engagement, graduation, or wedding coming up?
Or do you just want to spice up your social media?
Look no further, because we have the photographer for you.
Bess Pics is a Knoxville-based photographer that is down to travel,
Hype you up,
and show off your smile.
Lexi is the photographer that brought us our season 2 photos and new logo.
So we know she's amazing.
Feel good about the money you spend on a photographer by choosing Bess Pics.
She is a voice for those who are not heard and works hard to give her clients the best sessions possible.
With her confidence-boosting morale and kind heart, you won't just get a session, but a friend for life.
You can find Lexi on Instagram and Facebook at Bess Pics or her website, besspics.com.
To book your session today, email alexandra.bess.king@gmail.com.
You won't regret it.
LITB,
sister! Did you miss our lash ads?
Well, guess what? We are back with even more.
Afterlife Lash Extensions is a Knoxville-based lash studio that offers everything from classics to super volume.
Not in Knoxville? Or would you rather have falsies? Afterlife Lashes has it all with their own strip lashes for sale on Instagram at Afterlife Lashes.
All of their products are faux mink, silk material that is vegan, cruelty-free, and is sent to you in a reusable coffin packaging that is so cute and so on brand.
With 3 years experience and a 3-time certified lash artist, Afterlife Lashes is here to give you the best experience possible.
Take a nap on their ultra soft lash beds with great music and even better vibes.
Use our code CREEPSANDCRIMES to get 40% off your entire order of falsies on afterlifelashes.com.
To book an extension appointment, DM Afterlife Extensions on Instagram and mention Creeps and Crimes Podcast to receive 40% off any service offered.
Happy lashing!
Okay, ads are back, bitches.
Ads are back!
And I'm feeling really great after that. So it's time to get crimey.
Yay! What do you got for us?
So the case I have for you today is, it's really interesting. But in the middle of it, I'm going to get really passionate about something that I researched for like 3.5 hours today.
Goodness.
So get prepared for that, and let's get crimey. So today I'm covering the case of Joel Rifkin, aka Joel the Ripper, not to be confused with the infamous serial killer Jack the Ripper.
Oh, we have 2 Rippers.
Yeah.
Steven Salvatore, Vampire Diaries, if you know, you know.
Oh yeah, well I think I have to watch the Vampire Diaries. You know, I've never done it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I've seen it 3 times.
I know you have.
I got, like, Aaron actually enjoyed it. Like,
I know, that's why I was like, fuck, I have to watch it.
Or he's like, what are we gonna watch, Vampire Diaries? And like, we watched that, and then we watched the originals and the late season. Anyway, moving on.
Okay, so my sources for today's episode are, and that's why we drink podcasts, my favorite. Wikipedia.
Thanks for liking us.
Yeah. Wikipedia, biography.com, oxygen.com, YouTube. I couldn't remember the exact video I used, but it was on YouTube. I'm pretty sure it was just the Oxygen videos I used. Fox News, Daily Mail, Seinfeld Fandom, Grunge.com, eOnline, Unidentified Wiki, Reddit, FindAGrave.com, WebSleuths.com, Frank Weber, author of A Killer Without a Conscience, The Rolling Stone, HG.org, The Washington Post, New York Times, and ABC News. All right, let's get into it. Joel Rifkin was born in New York City on January 20th, 1959, to 2 unwed young college students and was given up for adoption because they just did not have the means to take care of him. At 3 weeks old on Valentine's... I'm sorry. Don't take it out. 3 weeks old. I'm so sorry. Stay for TFUs, okay? So at 3 weeks old, on Valentine's Day, 1959, Joel was adopted by an upper middle class couple from Long Island, and their names were Benjamin and Jean Rifkin. 3 years after Joel's adoption, his parents loved him and the adoption system so much that they actually adopted another little girl, and they named her Jan. So now he has a little sister, and they were besties.
That was the girl's name in my story.
No, yours was Jane, right?
Yeah.
Mine's Jan.
It was Jane.
Okay, great.
Spelled the same.
Love that for us. In 1969, 10 years later, the Rifkin family moved to East Meadow, Long Island, and there Joel was enrolled in Prospect Avenue Elementary School. Did you have a Prospect school?
No.
Literally everywhere in Tennessee has a Prospect Elementary School.
I don't even know what that is.
That's where my mom went to elementary school. And it's like right beside my house.
What is it? Is it a private school or what is it?
No, it's just like a name. Like, I feel like everybody has that name for some reason. Maybe it's just a Tennessee thing, but like when I was reading this, I was like, that's literally, every time I do a story and I see like Prospect, I'm like, interesting.
That's weird.
Okay. And so though Joel had an IQ of 128, he was extremely dyslexic and struggled to make good grades and fit in at school. Therefore, he was constantly bullied and excluded from team sports and his neighborhood games. All the kids called him the turtle because he had a slow gait and a sloping posture. Trying to make an effort to fit in during high school, he joined the track team, just like basically praying that he would make friends. But they were so awful to him that he quit soon after joining and decided to join the yearbook staff because he loved taking photos and he just assumed like that would be his crowd.
Hi, you're sitting next to the editor-in-chief of the Guffey High School Yearbook Committee.
Everybody,
everyone to know.
That's going on her gravestone. Okay?
Editor-in-chief?
Hiking club president is going on mine.
Editor-in-chief because no one else wanted it. Hi!
Yeah! So, literally right after joining, they stole his camera and then he worked for the entire year on it and they didn't invite him to the rap party at the end of the year.
The rap party?
Like the end of the year party, rap. Like
rap.
Yeah. So at this point, it's 1972 and 16-year-old Joel is still an outcast and he's basically lost all hope in finding friends. So he just really turned to like movies and media, and this is when he became obsessed with the movie Frenzy. Frenzy is about a serial killer whose MO was to strangle his victims with a necktie, and it actually makes references to the 1888 serial killer Jack the Ripper.
Okay, Joel.
Right, so you see where this is going. Because of Joel's obsession with this movie, he began retreating more and more into his own disturbed world and daydreaming of raping, choking, and stabbing women.
What?
His parents gifted him a car when he turned 16, and Joel became fixated on the idea of strangling a prostitute. Basically, every day, Joel would drive around Hempstead and Manhattan to pick up prostitutes and have sex with them. This passion for sex workers only grew when he graduated high school and enrolled into Nassau Community College in 1977. He would skip classes and lose job after job because all he wanted to do was spend time with his prostitutes.
Okay.
As you can guess, this is a very expensive hobby.
Well, maybe he wanted to become a pimp.
Maybe, but no, because if you tell
Joel,
it's
instead of Joel
crime.
the Ripper, it's Joel the Pimp.
Joel the what is it? Joel the I can't think of the other name. Okay, I'm moving
Pimp Daddy.
Pimp Daddy Joel. It could have gone a completely other way. That would have been, well, it still would have been bad, but not as traumatizing. But we'll see where this goes. So this is a very expensive hobby, and he was constantly broke because of it, forcing him to have to move in and out of his parents' house well into and throughout the 80s. After jumping from major to major and school to school, he finally dropped out of college in 1984. In 1987, Joel's father, Benjamin, trigger warning, committed suicide by overdosing on medication after suffering from prostate cancer. This was extremely hard on Joel and his family, and because of this, it tips Joel over the edge, and he can no longer contain this urge to kill, and it just happens, and everything from here unravels. Just 6 months after laying his father to rest, on August 22nd, 1987, Joel was arrested in Hempstead, New York after offering an undercover female police officer money for sex. And just 2 years later, by February of 1989, 30-year-old Joel can no longer fight this urge, and his fantasies had to become reality.
Oh no.
So he went to pick up a prostitute, which was 25-year-old Heidi Blanche, and Joel took Heidi back to his mother's house in East Meadow, where he said that they were going to do the deed. There he bludgeoned her to death and strangled her. He then proceeded to it gets worse. dismember her body with an X-Acto knife. Which, first off...
That's tedious work.
Yeah, like, at least go get, like, a bigger knife.
Like a butcher's saw.
Like a kitchen knife. Like, you, like, wanted to kill this person if you're using an X-Acto knife. So now all of my sadness for you of getting bullied is completely gone.
Right.
It gets worse.
Like, that's a tormenting death.
Yes. He removed her teeth and fingertips so that she could not be identified. After cleaning up the gruesome scene, he put her head in a paint can, left it in the woods of a golf course in Hopewell, New Jersey, before driving a few miles north to throw her legs out and dump her torso and arms into the East River around New York City. Despite his best efforts, on March 5th, just a few weeks later, a club member at the golf course was retrieving his ball at the 7th hole from the woods when he found Heidi's severed head.
Oh no!
Yeah. So a month later, on April 8th, her legs were then found in a creek near Jefferson Township in New Jersey. However, they remained unidentified. Joel waited an entire year to kill his next victim, which was 28-year-old sex worker Julie Blackbird. In 1990, Joel waited for his mother to go on a business trip, and he picked up Julie, taking her back to his home with him. According to biography.com, once home, they had sex, and early the next morning, so I'm not sure if this was like at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., or if she spent the night there, but the next morning, he beat her with a table leg before strangling her, which, you broke your table? Your mom's
Also,
gonna notice that, okay? Like, what? It just gets worse. So, once she was dead, he then again dismembered her body.
With what, an X-Acto knife?
No, this time he used the chainsaw. But this time,
exquisite.
Yeah, he used weighted down concrete buckets to weigh down the remains in the East River and Brooklyn Canal.
Oh my goodness.
In 1991, Joel Rifkin started his own landscaping business.
Convenient.
Right, which is where he stashed all of his other victims' corpse, and he just kept them there until he had the time to move them off of the property and dispose of them correctly. Those women included Mary Ellen DeLuca, Barbara Jacobs, and Young Lee, and this is all from biography.com.
Dr. DeLuca from Greece?
That's what I thought. I was like, DeLuca?
DeLuca?
So according to Frank Weber, Joel went on to murder 17 sex workers and drug addicts, and went on to explain that the reason why he did this is because he believed his birth mother was a prostitute. So that was basically his motive, until a few years later he was interviewed, and he said, quote, "I killed prostitutes because they had no one. They had no lasting relationships, no family who cared, and no one would come looking for them." As sad as it is, he was right. Sex workers and addicts don't get taken seriously when reported missing to police. Therefore, they are an easy target for fucked up people like Joel.
Yeah.
According to recent statistics found on hg.org, the death rate for prostitutes in the United States is 204 out of every 10,000.
Holy crap.
I'm sorry, 100,000. After finding these statistics, I went on to read countless articles, this is my rant, about serial killers that targeted sex workers. And first off, I found so many serial killers for this, and I just wrote them down on my list.
Hey!
And then after I went through all of this, I fell into the sex trafficking statistics. And y'all, it's so scary. It's dark and it's awful. They are just an easy target for fucked up people like Joel.
Yeah.
And it is terrifying. So be safe out there to all of our listeners who are sex workers or who have family friends or family members that are. Reach out to them and make sure that they know that they can reach out for help, and they know that they can reach out to you for help if they need it. And you're in our thoughts and prayers. Right. Just because you do this profession doesn't make you any less
of a human being.
Like, you're a person. And that's all there is to say of it. So if you need help, please be sure to use the resources that can be found online and all over for your protection, because even though it's scary to reach out for help, you can. And there are places and people that are willing to protect you that were former sex workers themselves. So back to this horrific story. On June 24th, 1993, Joel Rifkin picked up Tiffany Bresciani on Allen Street in Manhattan. At the time, she was working the street with her punk rock singer boyfriend, Dave Rubenstein, aka Dave Insurgent, who later became famous in New York. Between his shows, he was just standing there with her, and Joel pulled up and said that to Dave, "I'll have her back in 20." Well, Dave had a bad feeling about this entire thing. Number one, he's watching his girlfriend like go off to have sex, so who wouldn't have a bad feeling? But after 20 minutes was up, she did not return. So Dave called the police and was like, "Hey, it was a 1984 Mazda pickup truck, and he gave me the name Rifkin." As you already know, police just wrote it down and didn't do much about it because she was a sex worker. Well, on June 28th, 4 days later, a state trooper was patrolling the Long Island's Southern State Parkway and saw a Mazda pickup truck that didn't have a license plate. So the trooper turns on his lights to pull over this truck when all of a sudden a high-speed car chase ensues, all right?
Holy crap.
So then the driver, after like running forever.
This is Joel's shining moment.
Exactly. He crashes into a light pole outside of a local courthouse.
Oh, that's not convenient for you,
Right.
my man.
Isn't it ironic? Right. So until when the driver crashed, the troopers surrounded the car because, obviously they've called in for backup at this point. They surround the car and they begin, as they get closer, they smell decomp.
Oh, no.
And they're like, what the fuck? So they open the back of the car to find Tiffany Bresciani, sorry, I'm not positive how to pronounce this, rotting corpse. So Joel Rifkin was arrested on site outside of the Nassau local courthouse. They immediately took him to the station where they began questioning him, and he admitted to all 17 murders, writing out the names that he could remember and sketching maps for police to recover their bodies. When Joel had picked up Tiffany, he had strangled her and stuffed her body into a wheelbarrow for 3 days before taking her body to dump it, which is when he was pulled over. Police followed these maps and recovered countless bodies, ID cards, women's clothing, and jewelry, as well as a wheelbarrow and chainsaw that had human flesh all over it.
Oh my gosh.
So after confessing to his crimes, he was moved to the Nassau County Correctional Facility in East Meadow to prepare for trial. And on May 9th, 1994, Rifkin was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for the murder of Tiffany and reckless endangerment of police officers in the car chase. Basically, when he goes to court at the same courthouse that he crashed into, he was like, "No, I didn't do that.
Not me. Wrong bitch."
They're like, "You literally wrote us out a map of where they were."
Right.
And they're like, "Okay, whatever." So while in prison, he pleads guilty to 2 more murder charges and was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. So by 1996, Rifkin was scheduled to serve at least 183 years for 7 murders and 10 counts outstanding. While in prison at the Attica Correctional Facility, he got into a fist fight with another serial killer that I'm not going to mention their name because I'm absolutely going to cover them, for dogging on each other about who and how they murdered their victims. I'm like, what the hell type of prison fight is that?
That's big man stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not eligible for parole until the year 2197.
Wow.
Bruh.
Good.
And he will be at the age of 238 years old.
See you then, Joel.
See you then, motherfucker. So now I'm going to go through each of his victims and when/how they were found. I don't typically do this when it's like a long list of victims for serial killers, But I just really feel the need to like say these women's name. So we're going to hop right into it. Number 1 was Heidi Blanche, which I mentioned, but she actually went by Susie. She was 25 when she was murdered, and her remains were found in 1989, like I mentioned, but they were not identified until March 2013.
That's crazy.
Using DNA.
Wow.
Crazy. So next victim was Julie Blackbird. Her remains were never found. She was the one that was weighed down into the river. Number 3 is Barbara Jacobs. She was 31 at the time of her murder. Her remains were found on July 14th, 1991 in the Hudson River. Next, we have Mary Ellen DeLuca. She was 22. Yes, she was 22 at the time of her murder. Her remains were found on October 1st, 1991 in Cornwall, New York, and they were identified on July 4th, 1993. Next is Young Lee, 31. Her remains were found on September 23rd, 1991 in the East River off Randall's Island. Number 6, so the ones that they don't have a direct identification, like name for, they weren't reported missing, so on and so on.
They just a part of the list he gave them?
Exactly. They were never identified and their remains were never covered. Next we have Lorraine Orvino, 28 at the time of the murder. Remains were found on July 11th, 1992 in Coney Island Creek, and they were identified on July 4th, 1993. Marianne Holloman was 39. Remains were found on July 9th, 1992 in Coney Island Creek. We have number 9. Their identity remains anonymous, so they were found, but their family chose to keep their identity anonymous. Then we have Iris Sanchez, 25. Remains were found on July 29th in 1993 near John F. Kennedy International Airport.
Oh.
Nope. Anna Lopez, 33. Remains were found on May 25th, 1992 in Patterson, New York. Violet O'Neill, 21. Remains were found in July of 1992 in the Harlem River at 123rd Street and the East River 23rd Street and Governor's Island.
So he spread those out.
Mm-hmm. They were not identified until September 1993. Mary Catherine Williams, 31 at the time of her murder, remains were found on December 21st, 1992 in Yorktown, New York. They were identified on July 6, 1993. Jenny Soto was 23 at the time of her murder. Remains were found on November 17th, 1992 on the shores of Harlem River in South Bronx. Leah Evans was 28. Remains were found on May 9th, 1993 in Northampton, Suffolk. Sorry, I can't talk. County, New York. And then Lauren Marquez was 30 at the time of her murder, and her remains were found on June 29th, 1993 in the Long Island Central Pine Barrens in Suffolk, County, New York, and they were identified on August 20th, 1993. And then lastly, we have Tiffany Bresciani, 22 at the time of her murder. Body was found on June 28th, 1993 in the bed of Rifkin's pickup truck.
Wow.
So basically, Dave, what was his name? Dave, the punk rocker.
Yeah.
Basically gave all these women justice.
Yeah.
So that is the story of Joel Rifkin.
So he's like a mini serial killer.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he is a serial killer.
He's a serial killer, but what's so interesting is you saw how it like grew and progressed, but you could tell that he was like scared. Like he stopped for a year between his first and his second murder, which was really not. I don't want to say it was interesting because it's a serial killer, but yeah, it's a lot of women. It's 17 women, but it was such a short time frame that it's almost like I don't know, many. Yeah. Okay.
Wow. I loved it.
Thanks.
You guys, we've had a hell of a time recording this episode.
Yeah.
So,
just say for the TFUs, and we'll talk about it really quickly, and then we're going home. Well, I'm home. She's going home, and we're going to bed. So, thanks for listening. If you're not going to stay for our TFUs, and we appreciate you.
Cool deal.
Sorry, it's crazy and choppy. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
what is it?
If you're drinking, don't fucking drive.
No.
I don't even know. My brain can't even function. If you're driving, slow the fuck down.
If you're drinking, don't fucking drive.
And remember, this is totally fucked up.
It
Like
is.
our night. Let me tell you, absolutely confirmed. I'm sorry we keep talking about it, but Mercury can go fuck himself because we have had just an awful recording, okay?
It's been terrible. It's been terrible. And you know it's been terrible if Morgan's the first one to speak about how awful it was.
Like, let me tell you guys something. Our episode is an hour long. We've been doing this for about 4 hours now, and we record a 2-hour episode in 3 hours.
Yeah.
So put that in perspective. That's taking us 4 hours to get 1 hour done. The camera's not functioning. We forget to record the intro. I don't even know.
And then the camera's like, the SD card is full. So I go to the camera to fix the SD card, and it's like showing that nothing's on it. So
like, gotcha.
And like I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. So my entire story is filled with breaks and pauses and fixes and fuck ups of me trying to speak correctly, which I can never do. And I was like totally feeling my buzz in Morgan's story after I got over the whole intro.
She was so mad at my story because she was pissed we didn't record the intro that she chugged her drink. So she was feeling good.
That's feeling great. And I was
from
like,
her story.
And guys, I've been so excited for this recording because I missed my mic and I'm just so sad. I'm so sad. Now we have to wait another week to like fix that.
Well, joke's on us because we're recording another one in like 2 days.
Yeah, but that's for Patreon. Like, for our regular people, like, they're gonna think we suck in season 2. No, we just don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah, we put too much on our plate.
We really did. And I'm always like the bitch that's like, oh, I can make room. Like, I can make room. I can do this.
I can do it.
And then I'm like...
You know, by the end of this, you could probably, like, go into coding and, like, IT, like...
I will
like,
never.
Some sweet...
Because I'm gonna call, like, Jeff.
Like, computer nerd shit, man. You could do it.
I'm not okay. We're not okay. I don't even want to drink. That's how not okay I am.
I know, I'm done with my drink.
I've
got cotton mouth.
Cotton mouth. I, like, can't even drink water because that's how bad my cotton mouth is. My head's pounding. Anyways.
I'm starving. We're tired.
I'm so sorry. I wish we could redo it. It's just, it's too late.
We hope you enjoy this episode. If not, you got a whole other season to listen to us, so.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
Alright, love you guys.
Thanks for listening.
Oh my god.
Love you, bye. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.